What's up, doll photographer and storyteller? Today we're gonna do another episode of the Chip Chat Show with James from Bellas. There is two things that you have to know about this interview. Is that first one is uh, at the half of the interview is good. The other half is a bit fucked up because I kind of have missed the recording because my phone ran out of data, not data, but memory or whatever, and it just turned off. So, well, you'll see, anyway. And the other thing is that he is white, he is straight, he is a man, so you will not be able to tell me that I'm heterophobic and that I am doing white racism. You see? I'm all about inclusivity. Anyway, enjoy the video. So, James from Bella. First, do you call your dolls or figure?
The story ones are dolls. The ones I do on my other page are figures.
Okay, so Outcast is for figure,
Yeah.
and the Bellas?
Definitely dolls.
Okay, what do you see a difference between the dolls and the figure?
I think because the dolls do look more like a Barbie doll, whereas the figures are more like your action figures that probably grew up with, like your G.I. Joes and He-Man type.
Yeah, but G.I. Joe is kind of a doll, but for male.
Yeah, but we call them action figure because young men can't play with dolls. But
True,
if you say
yeah.
action figure,
That is
it
true.
sounds more
Male-y.
Yeah, you can't ask for a doll for Christmas when you're a teenage boy.
You ask for an action figure.
Yeah.
That is true. Okay, so which one was the first doll that you had? For the Bellasdollstory, we'll say.
It would be Chloe Bella, who it's named after.
You had Chloe first?
Yeah,
Oh.
quite early in my Fyson career. Because I think she was the first one that I kit bashed myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I bought the Red Sonja Fyson, which was my first one I bought. And then I bought the Vampirella one. And then after that was when I think I ended up on eBay and saw how many different heads there were and all the clothes. And they come from China and they were so cheap. So I just bought a bare Fyson body, bought a few clothes, I think. Might have been from Giant Toy where I just bundled a few bits in, and then, as I think we all know, once you bought that first doll,
It's an epitome.
and then you put that together, and then the next day you think, oh, no, I'm going to change the outfit to this, but you like how the other outfit looked, so then you have to buy another doll and another head, so you can have that one as well.
We all have the same process about that. But
and
Chloe
so
was
on.
the first, so who was the second then?
Hard to remember now because I've had so many, and I've sold a few over the years as well, that some that didn't match. I remember there was a head sculpt I bought. I bought a pale body, and then I was looking for a head sculpt and it said pale. And so then I bought this head sculpt for it. I bought like a military outfit. So I was going to put together a kind of soldier.
Oh.
And then when the head sculpt turned up, it was like orange.
Oh, fuck.
And
It was the Kimi one?
it was...
Because I heard that Kimi head sculpt have the tendency to be more orange and yellow.
I think
on
it
the
was a
undertone.
Kumik.
Kumik. That's what Kumik
Yeah, and also the head and hair were just stuck together with like a really horrible like blue tack, but like the green, like the green stuff they use.
Fuck.
And so it looked a bit messy because you had to push it together. And so then I think I sold that head sculpt in the end because it just didn't. didn't even match a tan body because it was so orange, and you end up you're trying to think, oh, I need an outfit that covers the neck, the whole body, and then you just think, no, I'm just going to get rid of it.
But I heard that the Jiao body have made a special skin tone to match the comic head. But you have to go to Jiao, and the skin is a little bit more, well,
Yeah,
I like more the chibi.
I've seen they have more range in the colours, but I've found it's never too clear on the listings which one you're actually buying.
And you never know because sometimes they edit the photos, so you never know which color is it in real compared to the photos because it's not raw photo, it's edited, so you're kind of messed up about that.
Yeah, you want to see it in hand or in someone else's photo with a similar...
Yeah, we'll have at least some different health sculpts on the body so you can see which brands or head match the skin tone. They just do the bodies without the head, so you never know. Okay, so let's talk about your photo story, the Bella's one. How did you start it? Why did you start it? And what was the process?
Well, since I'd started on Instagram, which was probably after or around when I had the Red Sonja Thyssen, and I was following like toy photo pages like most of us do, and then I saw a few story pages as well, and I ended up finding them more interesting because it was like when you're just watching the episode of a TV show every day, you were getting a new episode of this story, and because it was just on there, you weren't going to see spoilers anywhere. You weren't going to go on Instagram and see a spoiler of what happens in...
Like Walking Dead or Game of Thrones or all that show.
Yeah, you don't have to unfollow loads of actors to not have it spoiled. And then I'd done a few kind of mini stories on there, but nothing that I really kept going. And then I think it was around when the COVID lockdowns happened, and I was still working anyway, but obviously you couldn't really go anywhere. A lot of places were shut. And so I guess I just had the idea of, because I already had all the dolls that I'd been buying all the time. And I thought, let's try and put some story together. And I had Chloe at the time, and Scarlett had made a kind of appearance in the other story I'd done. And then there was Chloe as well. Like, Chloe is a kind of semi-retired model. Scarlett is the kind of internet model where it's not really a model as such, because she's just setting the camera up in her bedroom and doing whatever she does. And Dawn doesn't do any of that. She's kind of the sensible one. And so, yeah, I think, so then one day I started writing down what the first story could be, like what would the storylines actually be, and how many figures I would need, what kind of dioramas I was going to have to make.
Fuck.
So I found it was so useful to actually just write it down, not having it on my phone, but just written down, and then each kind of check item on the checklist that I'd done, I could cross it off, and because I think I made like the club stage diorama, and like they're all kind of basic at the start. They're not the most advanced now, but so I did the stage, and I think I did one that was the backstage area. Because that was where I had the safe. Because then the first storyline was Scarlett was dating an older guy.
Yeah.
Which I used my Negan Walking Dead figure for.
I forgot that part.
And I think he might have been the only kind of ready-made male figure I had that was fully dressed. And I called him Morgan as well, so it wasn't even that far from the actor's name. But I never put a lot of effort into my names.
Yeah, Scarlet,
And-
Indigo, Jad. Yeah, we can tell that.
and I think it was about once I'd worked out what the first storyline would be, so then you have to break it up to individual posts, and I think it was about 40 posts that it worked out to be, from the very start of kind of introducing everyone and then introducing the boyfriend, and then there were scenes where he would be showing that he was planning a robbery, where he would kind of, I think we had him like talk to just a friend who was always off screen, just saying, "Yeah, I'm working on this, and then I'll be leaving town."
That was. You just remember that because that was so long ago. I just remember that everything. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It was 3 years ago now. 4 years.
Yeah.
Even.
Well, I think I didn't start the story for quite a while. From when I decided I was going to do it, it was quite a while still to. I think it'll be 3 years this year that the page has been going.
Fuck.
So it was about October.
But how much time did you take between having the IDs and taking the first photos? Do you remember how much time was in
Can't quite
between?
remember now.
But it took you long to start?
Maybe it was probably like maybe a month or so
Okay,
from
it took you a long time to
getting the diorama, because I haven't got a lot of room to work with. I've got like an area in a cabinet I use for most of it, and they're all designed so they can just be flat and put away and then interchanged in the area.
Okay. So you do kind of have one spot for your dioramas and you just change the walls and everything to kind of mix and match and
they're all
create new scenes.
kind of. I buy like the big sheets of coloured card, and then you just got to cut it down the middle, and then you've got like the usual corner diorama that a lot of us use.
Smart.
And because it's just card, and then I think there's about 4 or 5 now that are all in that area. It's just a matter of swapping the one that you need at the front, and then the only time consuming part is then you've got to set the furniture up and
the props and everything. Yeah. And how do you work by now when you are creating your photo story, your photos, and the text line? What's your process to create a chapter or an episode, as you said?
I have a list on my phone of possible story ideas.
Okay.
And I can kind of loosely just pick whichever one I want next after the current storyline is going to finish, and whatever. And there's kind of the overarching story of everyone's relationships and situations, but sometimes it can just be a kind of short, silly story that just runs for like a week or two. Like there was one I did where Dawn's boyfriend was acting a bit secretive and people thought he was cheating, but it was just he was saving up to buy some action figures, and then I used my Mezco figures with them because I always think it's funny to have the figures with smaller figures, and I think it surprised everyone because he was asking for extra shifts and he was being secretive. He was on his phone a lot, which was because he was looking on eBay trying to win the figures.
But that was something I was always wondering about because we were talking with Auras, for example. She had multiple different characters going on her story. Malcolm is about the same. I usually only work with one main character, maybe two. How does it work when you actually have different character leading somehow on the storyline? How do you plan? Okay, this right now I'm going to talk about Indigo. Right now I'm talk about Jade. Or how do you kind of organize so many characters in your storyline?
Sometimes I've tried to. like there's some that I've sold and kind of totally left the story because I've sold the heads, and so they're not coming back. But some I will give like a proper send off, like I did with Scarlett's uncle Samuel and Christy, who they were together and then they split, and then they ended up leaving, and then he went back to live on his farm in the countryside, and sometimes it's just you feel the character has had all their story that you can do that's going to be like interesting enough. So I'll kind of just send them on the way and write them out.
Do you ever have the fear that the audience or the readers might not like a character that you like?
Yeah, I did the story with the mayor at the start of the year, and you only saw his assistant, and I just put her together because I thought, well, she'll be wearing a suit, and I had the Tifa head sculpt, and whenever I've seen that character posted, people seem to like her, and maybe people didn't like that it was a likable character as Tifa. Then she was made to be a total bitch in the story, and I noticed that whenever I'd posted a scene with her mainly being the main character in the scene, that I'd look the next day and the likes would be like half what they would normally be, and I was thinking. At first I thought, maybe it's just the algorithm. It didn't like it that day, but as a few weeks went by, and every time she appeared, that post would do so badly. And I was still not sure. Was it just she wasn't interesting, or did people just see it and not read it, just skip by? And so then I was going to have the mayor appear later. And then it was probably going to end up where they were going to try and shut Bella's down. And the head sculpt I used for the rapper guy Reels, he was originally going to be the mayor. But then I just thought, I'm going to just scrap this storyline. And I'll get back to the more silly... Because I thought I think the kind of silly, not so serious stuff is what works best for me as well.
But, for example, just about you personally, what is your point of interest in your story? Is it mainly the jokes and funny side, or maybe more serious stuff going on? If you had to pick one direction, which one would you go to?
Definitely be the more silly, the light-hearted kind of stuff. But I do like going a bit serious with it at times. Like, probably the biggest storylines have all been the quite darker ones that have, like Scarlett, she's obviously had the stalker guy, Patrick, and then she had the cult story.
But didn't that brought many attention, that part of the history? Because I remember that when she had the stalker, you had many comments on the photos, so that brought people attention.
Yeah, that's right. I think
it was really serious kind of period on the storyline.
Yeah, I think it's just that it needs... I think I need to spend more time, and I need to focus more if I'm doing a serious storyline, because you've got to plan quite far ahead, and you can't have it just... the stalker guy just suddenly disappear for weeks.
I agree.
He needs to still be there. Same with the cult, because they were trying to get Scarlett to join, and yeah, I did. Sometimes I'll be like, I realise I want the next scene. I haven't even taken the photos yet, so then I have to. I'm like, right, get your butt in gear and get on with it.
I agree. But that was something that I was wanting to jump on. So it's really well served. Because you had the stalker and then happened a crossover with Malcolm. How did it happen? Because you do have two different style and storyline. So how did it happen?
Well, I'd done a I was sorting out all my spare parts from figures that I'd kit bashed, and Malcolm obviously does kind of quite supernatural stories, and I said to him, I'll send you some bits that you could probably use. And then I still had the Patrick head sculpt, but where he had got to in my story, he had been sent to prison for all the stuff he did to Scarlett, and I always thought, well, he's kind of done for the story, because for stalking her and trying to kidnap her and everything, he's going to be away for years, so maybe 10 years I could bring him back. But and then I thought, well, why don't I send him to Malcolm? And I thought, with his supernatural elements, they could easily break him out of prison. And I've always liked his Janice character, and I said, I don't know if he suggested it or I did, but I basically said it would be good if he's aligned with Janice in some way. And because Patrick was, of course, unfamiliar to all of his characters, Janice used him as someone who could, like, just stand in the cafe and overhear things, and because Janice didn't care what happened to him, she wasn't going to be bothered if he got caught. And yeah, so I just sent him to him and I said, you can do what you want with him, kill him off, don't kill him off. And then it was fun because it was a surprise to me every post he did, because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Okay, so you didn't plan what will come next on his story then. Okay, I was curious about the process. If you talked about, can I do that or do this? And
there was
I was curious to see.
Some scenes where I'd help write or give a bit of input on what he would do, because part of his thing that he was quite good with computers and the kind of hacking side of it. Because one of his things before he got sent to prison with Scarlett is he had hacked into the police database, and he had the video of Scarlett and her boyfriend on stage after hours, and he was like saying, no, you're going to give me a show like that as well. And so yeah, then he used his hacking skills thing in his character in Malcolm's story as well.
Love that. Also, speaking of, how do you manage now, because you have also some other crossover planned, not to spoil, of course. But I was curious about, how do you manage it? Do you send a message saying, okay, could we make, like you do, you have done with Vera, a crossover already?
Yeah.
So do you send the invitation? Does the other one send you the invitation? How does it work normally on other?
I think, I'm trying to remember with the Vera Strong page who suggested it. I think we were just talking because he's got the model character, Giselle, and I think, I can't really remember who came up with it, but basically whoever did, the other said, yeah, that's a good idea. And in his story, there's going to be a kind of meet and greet with fans, and we'll probably do a bit of background swap to have Scarlett there. But where we're up to in the story at the moment is they kind of fell out a bit, because when Giselle came to Scarlett's DVD signing, because Scarlett wasn't in a good mood because she had just been dumped, so she was kind of not as chatty as she expected, and so we'll see where it goes with that. But I've probably got about 2 months of content from this week in Finland, so
that is true.
It'll be after summer at this rate.
Fuck, you have so many story planned ahead. I have to work on that way too. Do you have other doll photo story plan other than Bella's? Like, you know, my addiction to open new account. So I wonder if you had that somehow.
I've got an idea I've been thinking for a while, where it would be a kind of minimal story. It would be more just me taking the photos of a figure, like when and it would be like a 112 figure, so it's easier to carry about.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that it will be like a TV show in Bella's, that it would just be mentioned. So
cool.
I would post the picture as normal on my Outcast figures, and it would just be like a nice photo of the figure outside, and then you'll just have the characters casually mention it in conversation, like.
That's so brilliant.
But it's quite early stages. I haven't set on whether it'll either be a sci-fi thing or a medieval thing.
Yeah.
Whichever, probably more leaning towards medieval, because
Easier to find props.
yeah, because you can just stick them in the garden, put them in the field,
True.
and you've got a medieval looking area.
Because creating planets could take a lot of time. True. So.
Yeah.
Speaking of photo and going outside doing photos, how do you feel when you do outdoor photography?
Are you talking public or in my garden?
No, public, of course. It will be too easy.
It's still very conscious of people walking around. I have done some while I've been here, and I have done quite a good amount now when I went to Lanzarote last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first proper ones I did were in London when I got on the train when Aurora and her family were coming over.
Mm-hmm.
And she chose the most public place and behind one of the landmarks near Big Ben, and we were there taking doll photos. But she said to me, like, remember, you'll probably never see any of these people again. They're not going to take that much notice. They'll glance at you maybe, and then they'll carry on with the day.
Sure.
And it's just getting over that anxiety that people still are going to look at you as they walk past, and it does look a bit odd to see a man in his 40s taking a picture of a doll. That's always going to be something that will be a bit awkward to do. Like, I couldn't do it in the village where I live, where like everyone knows me
each
anyway.
other. Yeah.
But
do you also feel like, because when I do outdoor photography, for example, in public space, the hardest one is to take the first photos. But when I took the first or maybe 5 photos, I feel more at ease somehow. Yeah. Do you have the same feeling when you do it?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I went on holiday to Lanzarote on my own last year, and I took Scarlett with me, and I wasn't sure if I'd end up just doing photos in the hotel room or if I'd actually take her, but there was so many nice places there for photos, all the beaches and everything, and where it was in the story it worked perfectly, because I think it was when Patrick had got out of prison and joined Malcolm's story, so she was stressed about all that, so it worked well for her to just get away. And I remember I took some pictures of her at the beach, and there was a path just behind, like I was at like the edge of the beach, and I got there, I put like some tissue down to be the beach towel, so she wouldn't get sand all over her, and sat her down, and people were walking like right behind me, and like you say, once I took the first few photos, I was just oblivious to them. I was like, I need to get the photos I want. It doesn't matter that there's people walking by.
I feel like,
once I get like the story in my head and I know there's photos I need for the scenes and I'm already there set up, I'm just like, get them done.
So knowing that you have to create those photos to match the story is also something that helps you to go out of your comfort zone, I would say. Yeah,
because then I know if I've planned, she's going to go to a restaurant, because I had that in a story, because most of the Lanzarote part for her was just more just chilling out, relaxing, and obviously I didn't take any other figures, so she wasn't going to interact with anybody. But it was just fun, the challenge of just getting the figure there, ignoring all the people around, and just getting the photos done. And then when you look on the camera and the photos look really good, that gives you the motivation
true.
to do more, because you're like,
I agree on that.
I did that. And especially if you're on holiday, because you're like, well, this is the only chance you're going to get to do these photos. Like, I've done so many this week here, because I'm like, well, next week I'm not going to be at the harbour in Helsinki, so I've got to do the photo now.
I agree.
Because
work the same way, but there is something that I was wondering about, because you have, as we said earlier, many characters going on, many dolls going on. How do you choose when you go on a holiday trip which one you're going to bring with you?
Well, the first one, when I just took Scarlett to Lanzarote, and that was kind of, I didn't know if I'd be brave enough to do the photos in public, and so I didn't even think of bringing 2 dolls along. I would have liked to have brought a male doll, but they're so much heavier, and I just went with the one bag, so I always travel light, and I was like, I can't have my bag be full of dolls.
Unfortunately, you have to wear clothes,
And then the next one, it was only like 6 weeks after the Lanzarote one that I came to Finland for the first time. And I've got the character Karina, who is Finnish, so she had to come. And Scarlett came because she is basically the main character now. And
wherever you go, she goes.
Yeah. And then it's just a matter of working it into the storyline, how they're going. And I just had it where Karina and her mother come back here every year, but her mother had to work. And ignoring the fact of how booking plane tickets actually works, we just did it where, well, I've got a spare ticket, do you want it? And Scarlett is just, I think actually Scarlett volunteered herself to take the spare ticket. So, and then we did some good crossover story with Aurora's Finland story. And because Aurora had met some of her characters in, not Aurora, Scarlett had met some of Aurora's characters in London.
Yeah, for the photo shoot. I remember too.
So then it's just become, every time you're going somewhere now, especially if you're meeting other people with the dolls, it's like, well, you've got to bring some along.
Yeah, because it's easier to make connection with the stories because they already met and know each other.
You can't miss a chance for another doll crossover.
True, that is true. And what's in, when you go outside taking doll photos, what's in your bag for your dolls? The dolls, obviously?
Yeah, so you've got my camera, which I use for the majority of my photos. It's a little bit older now, but for outside, if you've got daylight, it takes much better pictures than my phone. So my phone will take a sharper picture, but they just don't look the same as what the camera. And because with the camera, I can zoom into and it's an optical zoom, so you're cropping out, so you haven't got a real person walking past in the background. And
I agree. And you have more pixels.
And then I have a little tub with just accessories in, like, so change clothes.
So you always have a spare clothes when you go outside doing doll photography? Another outfit?
No, because a lot of my outdoor ones at home are just in the garden. Because there's enough, like, there's a fence and then a garage door, garden, so there's enough kind of backgrounds that can look like that. Excuse me, Mr. Have a Garden. Excuse me. There's like enough different backgrounds that I can say they're at the park, or they're at a car park, or they're in
Pretty handy.
You just won't see any 1/6
Okay,
doors
so
or windows.
maybe I should be more specific. What's in your bag for doll photography when you're not in your garden? What kind of accessories are you bringing? What kind of spare tools do you use?
Yeah, so the spare clothes, the backpack, things like cigarette, bottles of water, a bottle of Coke, and I was supposed to bring a couple of bits of maintenance, like I use like the white postage stickers to get like bits of dust off them, because it doesn't pull the skin too much, but it removes it quite easy.
Oh.
And that way you're not washing them, and because then you wash and make them super sticky.
I heard Doll Photo Studio use the same technique for cleaning his doll.
Yeah, I very rarely actually wash them. If they're getting really lots of dust on them, I'll strip them off and then just run them under the tap. But make sure that the water isn't actually going to get in the neck, because once it goes in there, it's never coming out. I made that mistake with one in my early days of Phisons, where I submerged one in the sink. And
I think we all did, unfortunately.
for a long time, you could squeeze the belly, and the water, you could hear the water was still in there.
Almost a year to remove all the water. It was still dripping. It was just a pain in the ass. I agree on that. So you have bottle of waters and you have Coke, but you don't have food for the dolls when you go outside, like a croissant or a donut or something.
I should do, but yeah, I don't. I tend to just think that they're more just sightseeing and not so much thinking about bringing food or buying food.
That's fun.
I should have brought some with me this time, but yeah, they're not eating on this holiday.
That's funny. Always bring bottle of waters, one Coke, something to eat like a snack. And I just got from Tiorama the little sandwich, so this is definitely going to be on my go-to, because you never know. And spare hands also, the extra hands.
The hands.
Yeah, in phones, obviously, also in a camera. And since Adam is doing doll photography, I always have a doll with me, a mini brand dolls with me also. I'm not going to use it maybe, but you never know.
Yeah. You might see a place where you think that's a photo that would work.
If you could build dioramas, what will be the dioramas you will build? If you have all the tools and all the things you needed, what would be the dioramas you would be creating?
There's a guy I've seen on Facebook, Dougie's Dollhouse, I think it is, and he's got like a huge, like, strip club bar type.
I know who it is. Yeah, now that you mention it, with the neon light and all this thing.
Yeah, it would probably something like that, because that would probably be about quadruple the size of my area, and I wouldn't need to keep swapping dioramas around. And so yeah, I think of a huge stage club area, but that would also bring the problem that I'll need a bunch of figures to populate it, because it wouldn't look very good if the strip club just had like
true.
2 people stood there. But
that is true. Like what is it called in English? We call it figurant. When you go to a TV show, for example, and you have the main characters and the main actors, and on the background actors, or background play or something, background roles, I think.
Yeah.
Back roles.
Yeah, the background actors.
Yeah.
Just to fill the scene so it doesn't...
Exactly, so it doesn't look empty.
Yeah.
And that was something I wanted to ask at the beginning, but you bring it up here, so that's cool. Why did you come up with the Bellas? The story of the strip club? Because we haven't mentioned, but you're straight, so maybe it's obvious, but why this choice of going to a strip club?
I think because I'd had it in the kind of rough story before I'd actually started it, that Chloe was like the owner of a strip club, because it's in her story, she was kind of like Playboy model, kind of tasteful nude stuff, nothing like beyond that. And she's done well for herself. And then as she's got a bit older, she's bought the club and performs there herself, like occasionally. And then that, obviously, then that brought Scarlett in there, who of course does all sorts of stuff in that industry. And yeah, I think I did a kind of sci-fi story on my Outcast Figures page quite a few years ago now, and I kind of learned a bit about like taking on more than you could handle, like when if you're going to have an alien invasion and it's like, oh, I need an alien ship, and how are you even going to make a diorama for something like that?
There's just sci-fi in the on your plan. You really want to do a sci-fi story, don't you?
And yeah, so I kind of took what I'd learned from doing that and kind of other things I'd done, just like 5-part stories, just quite short ones. And then I think that helped me realise what I could do and what I couldn't do. And it makes you think about, like, you need to think about the locations for every scene. It's like, well, like, I'd like to have like a 1/6 car, because then you could have easily do a scene with the characters just in the car, and then that would make it easier for them to be having a conversation and they're not just in the same places as usual. But 1/6 cars are hard to find and they're expensive, so
you can go for Barbie, but you know they won't fit in it, so
that's one for another day.
Yeah, well, you never know. Maybe you can go with the sci-fi. You can go for the 1+ scale. It would be easier, but still, you gotta have the planet problem.
Yeah, I've been working on a 1/12 sci-fi diorama, but it's only like a small corner thing where it would just the kind of spin-off story I said about where it would be the story within the Bellasdollstory. It would probably be used in there. I've had kind of ideas where it could be like there's a character who's on the run, so that character would just be photographed anywhere.
Like Ricky and Morty, I think it's called. The show with it was supposed to be a parody of Back to the Future. Rick and Morty, I think it's called.
No, I've not seen it though.
Okay, so another reference that I can find, it will be Doctor Who.
Yeah.
That every single episode is on different place and time. So that's what I was referring to have more of an idea.
Because I've got like some figures in mind, and then I've got one where it's just kind of like an android with just a helmet on. So it could be something like that character. They're sending these after the character that's on the run. So then all I need is 2 1/12 figures in my bag. And then you can just take the pictures anywhere.
Yeah. But there was something that I was thinking about earlier that I wanted to ask also. What is your process when you're doing a character creation? Do you have the head first, and then the story come with the head? Or do you have the story of the character, and then you're doing like a casting, seeing different heads, and okay, this head suits better the description of the bio that I created? What's your process when you add a new character?
I've done both ways really. Sometimes I've like thought, I want this character for the story, like when I've brought in, say, like the mayor's assistant, I was looking what kind of head sculpt would suit that. But then there is times where I'll look on the websites like Giant Toy that have the pre-order and the new releases, and sometimes I will just see a head sculpt and think I really like that, and then so I'll buy it, and then I'll work out the character after.
Okay.
Like there are some that I just have on display that I've put together that aren't in the story, or there's some where I just borrow the head sculpt for like a side character.
So there is no rules when it comes to the character creation.
Yeah, it can be either way. But yeah, if I see a head sculpt I like, and because I've bought so many and mixed and matched, I've got a few spare bodies now as well. So
Pretty useful.
chances are if I buy a head sculpt, I've got a body that can work with it. Because I've got pale ones, I've got tan ones.
I had a question that I just flipped in my head. Fuck. Man. Because I wanted to ask you about the character process and the spare body. Yes, I got it. Does it stop you when you have, because we are kind of a small circle. And for example, there is some head that I like, but I can't buy it because there is another person like Malcolm or Aurora or you or Steffi that have the same head, and I can't buy it because for me this head is now related to the character.
Yeah.
Does it stop you, for example, when you see a head and you know that it's on Malcolm's story or on Steffi's stories?
There is some that I've seen that I thought that could suit this character, but yeah, it would be like, it's like, well, that character is like an actor in their story, and I wouldn't want to try and bring them into mine because it would just look a bit odd to me, because it's like, well, I see them as, say, Olivia in Malcolm's story, so even if I like that head sculpt, it wouldn't work bringing them into mine, because it'd be like, well, that's already in their story. But luckily there's about however many head sculpts around, so
that is true.
There's no shortage of them.
But yeah, it happened with me with the Cindy from Malcolm that I had, and I just come across Malcolm's stories, and I already had the head, and I thought, fuck, this is not gonna be able to use it. But I think we have made. Oh yeah, I have one last question. Do you share your photos edited, or is it the raw photos that you share?
It's usually the raw ones. The only editing I'll do is if they're a bit too dark or too bright, or I need to add like smoke for the cigarettes. But I do quite minimal, and usually I'm posting. So when I take pictures on my camera, and then when I connect to my phone, it will send like a lower res version to the phone. And then if you want like the full res, you need to connect, and it's quite slow sending them. But because Instagram like degrades the pictures anyway, if I post it in the high quality, it will look the same as if I had posted the lower quality version, because they're not going to post like if it's say like 8-9 megabit, which is about the usual size they are. If I post on Instagram, it will just scale it to the lower res anyway. But the photos I particularly like, I will get the higher quality one, and I always make backups of the photos I like. And I've got in the habit of, if you know where you can download all of your posts from Instagram, I do that about every month or two now.
Wow.
And then in that way, then if anything happens to the account, because we know how it can be, I've at least got the full archive of all the posts and the text and the photos.
That's so smart. I should do that.
Because, you know, I think we've all seen where you go on Instagram and you think, oh, I haven't seen this person post for a while. And then you'll have them follow you with a slightly different name, and they'll say, my old account just went, they said I'd posted something, and because they'll delete people's pages and they won't even like let them appeal or anything. So,
but I heard the new algorithm on Instagram shows your photos to 10% of your audience or your followers. Then, depending on how this 10% react, if all the 10% react, then they're going to go high to another 10% of your audience and upper and upper. But if the 10% doesn't react well to the post, then they're just going to leave it that way.
Yeah, I've always all the time I've been on Instagram since when I sort of started posting more regularly, I've always found that the likes I get will be about 10% of how many followers I've got. So when I had 500 followers on Outcast Figures, I would get about 50 likes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been around 10%, like no matter how many, but I've kind of abandoned Outcast Figures now because the algorithm changes just made me think like, if I'm going to put effort in trying to take a nice photo and only 2-3% of my followers are going to see it, it just feels like a waste of time.
Frustrating.
And I'll still post on there occasionally, but it's the story page that keeps me motivated because I enjoy seeing people's reactions and like the current storyline that's just gone with Jarek dumping Scarlett. I had that planned like 2 months ago.
I hated you for that, really.
And I got so far ahead with the photos that usually I will post roughly Monday to Friday and then I'll have the weekend off. And I think it gives people a chance to catch up as well because not everyone can be on there every day. And
that's how you do it.
But for the last few weeks, because I got so far ahead, I have posted nearly every day with a few odd days in between off. But
that's pretty smart to do. To do some resting day for people who can catch on.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope. Okay, so I think we have made all the questions so far. How did you feel? Is it okay?
Yeah, it was
Not
good.
too scared? Yeah, perfect. So just for the ending, where can we find you?
So my story page is at Bellasdollstory, all one word, of course.
You didn't add any underscore?
No.
Okay.
And then my the page where I just try to post nice pictures of any figure in particular is Outcast Figures. That's the one that's been going.
And you're mainly on
longer.
Instagram?
Yeah. I've very rarely posted in Facebook groups.
Yeah, there's that too.
I do occasionally, but yeah, it's mainly Instagram that I check every day, and I can just about keep up with everyone's posts on Instagram on Bella's page. I'm kind of now, I only follow someone back if they actually look like they would be interested in what I do.
I agree on that.
And also, like, if they follow you and I see they're following 7,000 pages, I think, well, they're never going to see my posts, are they? So,
true.
Because I think I'm following like about 650 pages, but obviously not everyone's posting every day.
I don't even know how much I follow, but my current motto is if it's a doll content creator, I'm going to follow back. If it's not, maybe not going to happen. Yeah, I like to have some doll content in my feed, even though that currently for this new account I have much more doll photographer than doll photo storyteller. So I have to make a little switch on that. I need to follow more dollstogram photo stories. I just follow the same, never the new ones. But well, thanks you for joining.
Thank you.
Hope you appreciate the moment.
Thank you for asking me to do
You're
this.
welcome. You're so welcome. And we're good.
Yeah,
That
we're
was good.